Welcome to Calming the Chaos, where I help you find peace in a chaotic world. I'm Tracy Canella, licensed mental health counselor who talks about chaos from a mental health perspective. And I give you self-help resources you can use to calm your chaos in any situation in this world. Isn't this fun? It's not a substitute for counseling or psychotherapy, but just a lot of helpful hints and tools. So if you're on board, feel free to tune in. And now, let the chaos begin. I recorded this episode of Calming the Chaos several months ago. And in it, I interviewed a licensed social worker, Lindsey Carnick. And she and I talked about getting stuck. And I had intended originally to put this podcast out in January when people feel kind of stuck because they're making New Year's resolutions. But things just got away from me and time just flew by. And it's now February 14th, Valentine's Day. And it is the middle of the month. And I think maybe it's more appropriate to air this episode now because maybe people have made New Year's resolutions that they haven't kept and they are feeling stuck at this time of year. So in this episode, we are talking about being stuck and how to get unstuck. So if you are a person in an area of your life who is struggling with getting projects done and being stuck on social media, maybe even we talk about living independently from our parents, living on our own, finding love and relationships, career, jobs, finances, and even chronic pain. If you feel stuck in any of those areas, please give this a listen. Lindsey offers her expertise, and both of us are mental health counselors, and we both chime in with so many good tips to get you unstuck and to live the wonderful life that you're meant to live. So check it out. And thanks for watching. Well, I think when you and I first talked, we talked about what is stuck anyway, because some people think maybe they are stuck, but maybe they aren't. And so I don't know what your definition of stuck is. Mine was flies in the Vaseline, or a car who, is stuck in the snow and can't get to work or whatever. But, what do you see coming into your office? And I'll kind of share what I see as well. But what do you see coming into your office as far as people who aren't able to move forward and what we can maybe do to help them?
Well, certainly one is understanding the relative definition of stuckness, as it is unique to not only every individual, but different periods in our lives, right? It's a little bit like what you might have thought of as exciting in your 20s is a little different than what you consider exciting in your 40s, perhaps. There are a lot of, or fun, or any of these other things, right? There are a lot of different iterations of this. And as in this land of social media, where we are absolutely inundated with images and storylines about what other people are doing and how fast they're doing it and how much of it they're doing, I think it's really quite deceptively easy to feel stuck compared to other people who appear to be burning the midnight oil or the candles at all ends we didn't even know existed on the candle. And we're all pretty good at sort of nodding and paying homage to the nature of social media, and that of course it's a highlight reel, not a low light reel. But it's also, even when you know that, very hard not to get caught up in it and say, I should be doing more. I should be further along than I'm at. I should be in this kind of relationship or this kind of job or at this point in my career, or my life should look like this. And if it doesn't, I'm stuck. And that's a tough external set of conditions to live up to, and often very far away from our real, true internal sense of what it means to be stuck or not stuck. So the first thing that I'm always curious in is, by what set of criteria is any person sort of judging themselves to be stuck? I'm not saying that people don't certainly feel deeply stuck. And sometimes they really don't. they feel obligated to say they feel stuck because they don't think they're where they should be compared to someone else, which is a completely different story. Do you see that?
I'm really thinking about that in terms of what people really want in terms of meaning for themselves and what they really want out of their lives. And then what they see in social media and, oh, wow, maybe I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing and staying in this lane. Maybe I should like do online classes. Maybe I should, have, a practice that has a group practice or whatever. I know I've been down those roads, right? Like
Sure.
I need to do a podcast, which is apparently what I'm doing, right? You need to do a podcast. You need to do an online course. You need to have this many subscribers. You need to this and that. And then, yeah. And you look at other people and you think, wow, maybe I'm not progressing the way that I should be. But maybe we should be thinking about what we are doing and the good that we are putting into the world. Maybe we're not so stuck. I don't know. You're going
Yeah.
to help me get unstuck from this.
It's hard, right? Because we also have, and certainly, mass media and social media contributes this incredible sense of FOMO, right? Which is kind of what you're describing. What if I'm behind compared to all these other people? What if the what ifs about my life doesn't look like this other person's life, or my this isn't at the same state as that person's that, creates this incredible anxiety that we're somehow not doing what we're supposed to be doing, broadly construed, whatever that means, in any given domain of your life. And I think that makes people panic sometimes that they are stuck, when it's only stuckness by comparison to somebody else's frenetic who knows what. That doesn't make it stuck. And to your point, it becomes a little bit of a project of really trying to uh, identify the noise as noise, so that we can get clear about our own voice and our own sense of meaning and our own sense of what we value, right? And ask ourselves, hey, am I living in congruence with my values or out of congruence with my values? Now, if I'm out of congruence with my values by my standards, right, not by what the next person's social media reel says, then maybe that's stuckness. But if stuckness is a function of my reel doesn't look like that person's reel, that's about external benchmarks that are a completely moving target, and to which we'll be held hostage the rest of our natural lives if we go down that road.
And when I was listening to you talk, I was thinking about some of my clients who can't even get out of their own parents' home, right? And they're in their early to mid 20s and they're struggling to actually make it out of their parents' home. They feel like they're stuck there. And even people in their 30s or 40s even. And they want to get out. They want to do some stuff, but they just can't seem to move forward. And that's what I see a lot in my therapy practice is
Mm.
people wanting to have their own independence and they're not able to do that. Like that fly in the Vaseline, it keeps coming up like that. It just wants to
Mm.
fly and do its fly thing. But because of some of the things that are holding it down, they're not
Mhm.
able to do what they want to do, and so they feel stuck. But perhaps they're not taking a whole lot of stock on their personal power. So those are some of the thoughts that just came up when you said what you said. So maybe
Yeah.
if you could respond to that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think sometimes, again, because of those internal and external metrics, it's very understandable and normal for people to overlook where they do have agency, right? Because the metric for stuck versus unstuck becomes something external. Like if I'm in my parents' house and I'm 20 whatever, then I'm stuck. And if I'm not 20 whatever and in my parents' house, then I'm not stuck. And this is the criteria, right? Well, that's a hostage situation because you've now created one criteria for yourself, one box that has to be checked that makes you stuck or unstuck, right? And some of that is probably beyond your control. Not everything is within our control, right? So to start to be curious about where we have agency and the domains over our world in which we have agency, regardless of the places that we do not. And to be aware of this sort of all or nothing thinking, because A, then B. No, no, no. Okay, A and C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and maybe B is in there somewhere, right? A good example, I think, is when people feel stuck in jobs. Huge one, right? You probably see a lot of that. I see a
I
lot of
love
people.
that you mentioned that. Yes, because that was
Yeah.
the next thing on my list.
Yes. And I by no means want to minimize that sense of stuckness, that it feels stuck, right? That you're applying to things, that the economy is very strange, that job seeking, the world of job seeking is very, very strange right now for people by all accounts, and that eminently qualified people are not being noticed when they reach out relentlessly. It's a very strange, strange market for job seekers. Having said that, the question becomes, okay, is this the one dimension by which you're going to call yourself stuck or unstuck? We could make a statement, for example, that would not be untrue, such as, right now, I'm in this job. Right now, I'm in this job. I am in this job right now, and I have not yet gotten another job. There are so many aspects of stuckness beyond being in a job, right? What are we doing to prepare for that opportunity when it comes? Are you taking certificate courses? Are you doing continuing education? Are you networking? Are you doing all the things that you're not stuck on, so to speak, that you do have some agency and control over? Or are you waiting for that one box to get checked to feel unstuck? We do have control over that. And I think both things can be true. We can say, hey, I feel a little stuck right now. I feel a little stuck right now because I'm having this experience where I'm trying to make something happen, right? I'm trying to get another job and it's not happening. It's not happening on the timeline I wanted to, and it's very frustrating, right? And are you going to resign yourself to that? Is that it? Or are you going to say, while I'm doing this and I wish it were different, I'm also going to absolutely hustle to be unstuck in all these other ways. I'm going to continue my education. I'm going to continue meeting people. I'm going to do an internship. I'm going to reach out. There are a million things we can be doing at the same time, unless we get tunnel vision about this one checkbox that we've decided is the criteria of stuck or unstuck. What do you think?
Well, it reminds me of DBT, actually, dialectical behavior therapy, in
Yes.
that whole concept of acceptance and change, right? Like, what can we change about our situation? And when we have changed everything that we could do, like you said, we are taking our courses, we are trying our best to move forward, then if things are still what they are, then the acceptance doesn't mean that we have to like it, right? But we accept it because we know that struggling against it is going to cause more chaos. And so that's what I think about when you said what you said. And gosh, careers are so right now, people don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
And they don't know, even if they have a path, they don't know if they're going to have any agency in that, because they're just entering a field. And it's just so scary for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the most kind things we can do for ourselves is not speak to ourselves in the language of stuckness, which makes us feel panicked. Yes. And that's not a way of sugarcoating it or saying that it's fine when it's not fine. But how we frame things really, really matters in how we experience them. And if we keep telling ourselves, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, we're going to feel stuck, 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 stuck.
Right.
And to find some freedom and some wiggle room in that feeling of stuckness requires us to treat it with a little different handling than I'm stuck and that's the end of it.
How much do you go into resources other people helping you to get unstuck. So when I think about jobs, I think about, why don't you go to your local unemployment department or employment security department and take some classes, or work with a career counselor, or something to help you move forward. Can you speak a little bit about some of the resources that you know of to help people get unstuck, especially in
Hmm.
career, but in other areas of their lives too? Because I think people need people to help
Mm.
people,
Mm. Isn't that
right?
the truth? Yes, yes. I would like to say something maybe broadly about resources. And that's that a lot of people are really shy about engaging other people without an invitation.
Mm,
And I get that. I'm not a shy person, but I do get that. And it can be intimidating, especially when you're feeling stuck, to pursue things, resources that are not uh, exactly, you don't exactly know what you might get out of it. We tend to get a little focused on return on investment when we're feeling stuck, and we tend to get a little rigid, quite frankly. No, that person, I don't know who that person is, but I'm sure that's not what I need. Or no, I've already talked to those kind of people. Those, I don't need them. Because we start to get very understandably sort of jealous about our time. We're going, I'm already spending so much time and effort on this. I simply do not have the bandwidth to invest in one more person who might be a dead end. I need to invest my time and energy in people and activities, whether that's applying or talking to certain people and not others that seem like a sure or a more of a sure thing, or have a very specific expected outcome. And
mm,
while that's understandable, it's limiting. It's really limiting because it keeps folks in the same set of conditions that have already been stuck. I heard a very interesting, this is out of my lane. I'm by no means an HR professional or a career counselor by any stretch of the imagination, but I heard something interesting from a HR professional recently, that one of the things that's most frustrating to people right now is that they are relentlessly using quick apply on Indeed or LinkedIn, and that those applications are all screened by AI. And AI makes a lot of mistakes in the sense that it is AI and it is looking for certain things that may be missed in a bigger picture that a real person does not miss. And her advice was, if you see a position you're interested in on either LinkedIn or Indeed, go to the company's website and apply on their website, because that processing is different than, it's still AI, but it's different than the AI that's screening for LinkedIn and Indeed. The point is you don't know that. Now, I just said that because that's something somebody else told me, but you
great
don't
tip.
know that unless you talk to somebody who's not the people you've usually been talking to,
Right. Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. Actually, I had not even thought of that. And yeah, I have been in HR, 12 years of experience in HR,
Oh,
and
wow. So,
a vocational counselor as well. That's how I got my start. So
okay.
helping people in the world of work. But wow, yeah. So AI may screen you out.
Yeah, for a million different reasons. But my bigger point about resources, to your point, right, being that
Hmm.
I spoke with that person who is maybe not somebody who a traditional job seeker would go like, oh, that person is out of my league. They don't do what I'm looking for. You don't know that. You don't know that they don't have something to offer you. And my recommendation to people is that you put as many irons in the fire as humanly possible. It costs you almost nothing, right?
Right.
You reach out to people. People generally like to be helpful, even if they don't have a job for you. This has truly
Right.
been my experience, right? And so, if you let people in your field know, you make informal inquiries, make formal inquiries, reach out to people who work at companies you want to work for or who are loosely connected to the field you want to be in, and say, hey, do you have any advice for me? I'm trying to get into that, and see what they say, because often people who are already in these industries know about openings in the industries, and they know other people, and people like people who take initiative, right? So it could be that 3 out of 4 times people you reach out to don't have anything for you, but you only need one person who's got a real gem for you, right?
Hmm.
To make it worth your time. And I think oftentimes people get very narrowly focused on apply, 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 for example. And the, as they say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and hoping for a different result, right?
Right. Yeah, and so what you're talking about is tapping into the hidden job market, and you're talking about these interviews that you can do, just kind of informational interviews that you can do with people who are doing the things that you want to do. And I love that you brought that up, because that brings up the whole, vocational counselor in me. And I love helping people find happiness in the world of work and getting unstuck that way. So those are some things that you can do if work is what's getting you stuck. How about relationships? Are you willing to go into this? Like, if I'm like
Oh,
stuck because I'm like, oh my gosh, like TikTok, I'm like, 39, 30, 30, 38, 37, whatever, and my biological clock is ticking, and oh my gosh, like, who is my person? And I can't even find my person. And I'm going to online dating, I'm going to all this other stuff. I feel really stuck. I don't have a relationship, and I would really like one. What
yeah.
would you like to offer some of our people out there who are struggling with this?
Mm. Well, certainly I am very empathetic to that, and that's a hard place to be in. And certainly at various different ages, right, developmental stages, we watch people around us go through waves of doing the thing that maybe we want to be doing, and that makes it even harder. And we can really, that can highlight the thing that we feel like we don't have, that we really desire and are striving for. And so much of relationships for people, or at least meeting people, is luck, right? Which nobody likes to hear.
I know I started
But
laughing when you said that. It's like, oh my gosh.
I mean, but it's true, right? Nobody, I mean, there are things certainly you can do to spread your net wider. And I think, if you're the personality type that you're comfortable doing that, and you do mixers and speed dating and online dating and all the things, then good on you. And many people, that's not commensurate with who they are. It's just not comfortable for them and they don't want to. And I completely am empathetic to that. Either way is hard, quite frankly, because for the people who are going on 10 online dates a week, they're not meeting their soulmate any faster than the people who are not dating at all. Because
It's
again,
true. It's so true,
quantity does
right?
not make quality, right? So I
Yeah.
think, it's like so many things, like so many kinds of feeling stuckness. I think, you know, really being aware of what our values are and asking ourselves on an almost ongoing basis, how am I living out my values to the best of my ability? Because that's all any of us can do, right?
Mhm.
And that will not make you care less about, for example, a romantic relationship, that you don't have. And there's nothing that's a proxy for anything else. We can't say, well, if you go volunteer enough, you'll forget that you're single and then you'll, feel better about that. That's not true at all. Of course, that's not true. All we can do is, to your point about DBT, and we might even say about ACT, which I'm a really big fan and utilizer, is be willing to accept the feeling and say, yeah, this is something I would like, and I'm disappointed, or I'm a little sad, or I'm a little blue that this isn't something in my life that I have, because I would like this and it's meaningful to me. And there's a sense of grief there, and that's okay. There's a sense of longing, and that's okay. And with that feeling held in one hand, how are you also continuing to live out your values and not letting this be the place where you live? It can be a part of your life, but it doesn't have to be a place where you live. It can go with you. And it's this is a culture that puts tremendous emphasis on romantic relationships in particular. And that makes it particularly hard for folks who want one, who aren't in one. And I don't know that there's a magic trick. In fact, I'm sure there's not a magic trick, other than to say, like any other aspect of our life in which we are not quite fulfilled, I think all any of us can do is continue to live out our values in as many areas of our lives as we can, and understand that at any given time, we're not all going to have it all.
Yeah, it's like that old adage, it's not finding the right person, it's being the right person. So who
Hmm.
you are is going to be out there, and then that's what you will attract. And that
Mm.
would help you to get unstuck, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah, that's kind of what I took from what you said. And yeah, like I didn't really think about the whole, like, yeah, the society places a huge value on finding a good romantic relationship. We see it in the stars. We see it in the people who are in our social media, our influencers, and they're attached to somebody, and they're doing something really, really super cool. But like, why can't I have that? I feel stuck. But maybe you're not. Maybe all you need to do is be who you want to attract. I don't
Mm.
know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would say there's a wonderful quote, and it is most certainly not mine, and I cannot remember whose quote it is, so I apologize. Someone very intelligent once said, the longest relationship you're going to have in your life is with you,
Yeah.
right?
Might as
And
well might as well
so,
get along with me, right?
well, not only that, I would say invest.
Mm,
Investing in your relationship with yourself, to the end of investing in your relationship with yourself, not so that you something else.
right.
Not, I'm going to invest in myself because I think that'll attract someone else, or I think that'll create this other situation. Investing in yourself and your relationship with yourself for the sake of doing that, because it is the longest relationship you're going to have. Any
Because
of
I
us will
love
have.
myself, because I'm gonna be with myself, because I value myself, all that stuff, right? I mean, not being
Yes.
narcissistic or anything, but
No,
it's
no, not at all.
but wow. Well, so those of you who are struggling with relationships out there, there is hope. Being and living with in accordance with your values, just like Lindsay was saying, through ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, you can actually attract whatever. And if you don't attract it, you're going to be fine anyway, because guess what? You're going to have a great relationship with yourself.
Yes, I just want to add, you just made me think of there's a truly tremendous book out there. I don't know if you've read it, Tracy. You Are the One You've Been Waiting For by Richard Schwartz, who's the developer of IFS, Internal Family Systems.
I've heard of Schwartz, but I've not heard of that book.
Wonderful title, right?
Yeah.
You are the one you've been waiting for. And in some ways, you can read the book or not read the book. I think the title is so provocative in so many helpful ways, right? You are the one you've been waiting for. If it sounds slightly familiar, as a riff on the old saying, like, he's the one I've been waiting for, or she's the one I've been waiting for, right? You are the one you've been waiting for. And in IFS, that alludes to many things. There's a couple layers there that, we won't get into here. But I think there's lots of real wisdom there. But one of the takeaways of that wisdom is that when we farm out our sense of being in a good relationship to someone else, relative to some external person, we are running the same risk that we run when you farm anything else out, which is you're no longer responsible, accountable, and therefore in charge of the quality control
Ah,
anytime you outsource something. And if you outsource your relational satisfaction to someone else, he's the one I've been waiting for, she's the one I've been waiting for, you're setting yourself up for an interesting problem, always.
well, it's
And
more like giving your power away to somebody else, right?
yes, and you're also making them unfairly responsible for your happiness.
True.
You've just loaded them up with the job. You're the one I've been waiting for so that I can feel whole, so that I can
Mm.
feel better, so that I can feel fill in the blank about any one of a number of things. And what I love about that title, or the phrase, you are the one you've been waiting for, is I think it's really this like wonderfully empowering call to action, right? To say to each of us to look in the mirror and go, oh, wait, I've been waiting for me, whether I'm in a relationship, not in a relationship, want a relationship, don't want a relationship. You are more competent, more capable, and healthier to be in a relationship when you are the one who meets your own needs and you can show up and appreciate this other person for who they are, not what they do for you. You don't need them to, in the Jerry Maguire-ish sense, complete me. That's a
Yeah.
recipe for disaster, right? You have to be the one you're waiting for. And as we were speaking a minute ago about investing in your own relationship, that's how you become the one you've been waiting for, is by becoming a good partner to yourself before you try and become a good partner to anybody else. Now, most of us are doing this concurrently, right? We're concurrently
Sure.
becoming better partners to ourselves, and if you have a partner, to them too, and there's sort of a net gain. If you can
Mm.
do it while maybe not formally in a relationship, you have a little bit of an advantage because you're only focused on that one relationship.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the whole like independence over here on the spectrum and dependence over here on the spectrum. And then somewhere in the middle, there's this interdependence where
Mm.
I can be myself on my own and I can be fine. And I can also sometimes uh, have the resources of others and a
Absolutely.
person who's a partner or somebody who's in my family or something, and have them help me. I
Yes.
can be good on my own and I can have help from others. I think that's more of a healthy
Yes.
balance, right?
Yes. Yes, for
Uh,
sure. Yeah.
all right. Well, I know we didn't talk about this in our initial interview, so I'm just going to throw this at you. And if it just goes south, then whatever. But I have a
Sounds great.
lot. I have a lot of clients who are in chronic pain and have physical
Mm.
ailments, and they feel stuck because of a physical or physiological ailment or disease or something that they're struggling with physically. So I wonder what you would think or talk about as far as a person who even has something like fibromyalgia or has something like POTS, POTS,
Mhm.
or a chronic pain, even a back injury, something that has to do with their physical body.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because it is such a huge quality of life issue for so many people. And I want to preface this by saying folks who are living certainly with chronic pain or chronic illnesses are in very widely unique situations, right? And the degree their quality and in which ways their quality of life is impacted are certainly broadly varied. So I just want to acknowledge that it's hard to make generalizations, and certainly I wouldn't want to make any blanket statements about what is should be helpful for people. Um,
And we're not medical professionals either,
and
so
we are therapists, not medical
yeah.
professionals, sure. I do think that the ACT model for pain management is incredibly powerful. For those folks who aren't familiar with ACT, which, as you mentioned a minute ago, stands for Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, was founded by a guy named Stephen Hayes. ACT is about a lot of things. One of the primary things that ACT is concerned with is how deeply hurt we are by the narratives that we attach to certain experiences we have, and how those narratives then shape our whole response pattern. Now, that's different than saying, I'm not saying if you, positive thinking, if you put a happy spin on it, it feels better. That's not it at all, just as a disclaimer. But it is an acknowledgement of how we are meaning making creatures by default. And as soon as we have an experience, whether it's a little experience or a big experience, we start aggregating and connecting dots about that experience. And before we're even aware of it, perhaps, it creates a narrative that we are then living under. And sometimes we don't even recognize that about what, and in this case, we're talking about what pain means, what it means for the future, what it means for the past, lots of ramifications there, right? And ACT is very interested in helping us focus on the experience separated from all of the narratives that tend to be generated by the experience that then cause us a tremendous amount of additional distress, right? It's a little bit like saying when we look at a cake, in a bakery display, right? We look at that thing that's sitting there on the plate and we call it cake. We just refer to it as cake. But really it's cake, frosting, topper, candles, right? But we just say cake, okay? And ACT sort of points out to us that often we just refer to an experience as the way it is, when actually it's a lot of different things. And the cake, or your physical pain, if you have pain management difficulties, is a slice, it's a part of what's going on. But a lot of your distress, broadly construed as cake, is like frosting and candles and all this other stuff that is not the physical experience. It's the emotional ramifications that are arising out of your physical pain that all amounts to distress, right? And then we just go, this is all distress, like this is all cake. So ACT has been tremendously helpful to a lot of people with chronic pain and chronic health conditions. And I think I would encourage anybody, one of the things that ACT is wonderful about is they don't want to monopolize ACT. They want anybody who wants to try ACT to have access to it. So you can go on Amazon and get an ACT workbook for chronic pain and give it a try. It'll walk you through it, and it'll walk you through some very interesting thinking exercises and writing exercises. It'll ask you to think about your pain in some different ways. There's one. Is that a chronic pain book or just an ACT workbook?
It's just a learning ACT book, and it has it has a CD in here too for mindfulness and more awareness. And this is a wonderful, great book, a learning
wonderful
ACT. Yeah. And then there's an ACT for eating disorders that I've used, and also Stephen Hayes's book, The Happiness Trap, I believe. I don't think that's in my library here, but it's at my office.
Okay.
That's a great book. I remember taking copious notes on that. I can put those in the show notes for people who are interested in learning more about acceptance and commitment therapy. And I think that even you don't have to be a therapist to learn about this stuff. You could be a person who just picks up a book and figures this stuff out.
Yes, 100%. And back to your original question about stuckness and chronic pain, I think one of the things that ACT does so well is it helps people decrease the sense of stuckness by helping them get back to what is real, the pain, versus what has become compiled on top of that, which is all the mental, emotional part, which tends to create, you might feel on a scale from 0 to 10, okay, with 0 being not at all stuck, and 10 being completely trapped, like the fly in the Vaseline, right? The pain by itself may make you feel a 4 on the stuckness scale, but the mental load is probably taking it up to an 8 or a 6, something significantly number of ticks above the pain itself, right? And so one of the things ACT is really good at is helping folks get back to like, oh, no, this is just a 4. And a 4 is much different than a 6 or an 8. Right? A 4 feels a lot more like a lot more freedom than a 6 or an 8.
Yeah. So for an example, I woke up this morning, I had a huge backache. I could barely get out of bed. It was awful. It was very, very hard. And then I got angry because I can't do what I want to do. And so that emotional load is compiled on top of the actual physical. So if you're able to understand that I feel angry, that I am in pain, and that's pushing my pain from a 5 to a 9, then if you're able to handle the emotional part of it, then it gets right back down to what the actual physical pain is, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, there's another thing that I wanted to ask you, and we're going to take a trip over to your website. And in fact, I just love your website name. It's onwardpsychservices.com, and you can go on there, and we're going to take a trip over there in just a second. But I did want to give a little plug because, Lindsey, you, as you said, you work with people in 9 different states, and I'm going to name them off here: Colorado, Nebraska, Massachusetts, Maryland, Rhode Island, Nevada, Connecticut, Maine, New Hampshire, and Virginia. Not in Washington State, but maybe with the counseling compact, you might
Maybe,
do
right.
that when it opens up again. Yeah, I totally want to get onto that. But yes, thank you so much for the work you do, and this is awesome. I did want to ask you about when people can't make a decision and they feel stuck, like, oh my gosh, like I have to decide,
Yeah.
about this or that or the other thing. And I just can't, I don't know if you have any metrics or matrices or
Mhm.
whatever to help people make decisions. But I would be very open to hearing what you have to say about people who are stuck because they can't make a decision.
Oh my gosh, haven't we all been there?
Right.
Isn't that a universal experience? You mean like today? How recently today or yesterday or in the last week
I
maybe?
mean, just
Yeah.
anything. Like, I mean, I get people coming into my practice and they can't decide whether they want to stay in a relationship or whether they want to leave,
Yes.
or whether they want to take this job or that job,
Yes.
or whether they want to, eat bran for breakfast or if they want to eat oatmeal.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they feel like they're stuck because, well, okay, let's just go to the cereal aisle in the grocery store, shall we? Let's just go there
Yes.
for
Well, you know about
there.
the jam study, right? Do you remember the
Uh,
jam study in England?
no, tell me
Okay,
about
it's
that.
popularly known as the jam study of I don't know what it was actually called, right? But it was something to the effect of when you give people 4 choices of jam, they buy jam, and if you give them too many choices, they buy nothing. Like,
Right.
choice is not helpful. Like,
This
too
is
much
this
choice is
brings me
not
back to
helpful.
the cereal aisle in the grocery
Yes,
store. It's just like
exactly.
it's a huge thing. And the
Yeah.
granola, I mean, there's the granola bars. Like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to have, the traditional, like what I used to eat when I was a kid, or do
Right.
I want to look at other things? And then I get overwhelmed and it's
It is.
chaos.
It's absolutely overwhelming, and I think the thing that I like to remember for myself and that I suggest to other people as an idea is chances are, if you make decision A, okay, and then you're sour about it later, you would have also made decision B and been sour that you didn't make decision A. We would be having exactly the same conversation, but just the other side of it.
Good point.
50-50 chance most of
Right.
the time, right?
Yeah.
There's a phrase for this maximizers versus something else that is escaping me at the moment, but how people make decisions. And many decisions, firstly, are not nearly as important as we're giving them credit for. The good news is you can decide tomorrow what you want for breakfast all over again. And if you ate bran today, you can have an English muffin tomorrow. Like you just can't have both at once in this model, right? Some things obviously are more consequential than that. Do I take this job versus that job, right? And the thing that I like to keep in front of me is that we can never know all the information, and that's something we all have to make peace with. Nobody is ever going to have all of the information. You're not going to have all the information when you marry somebody. You're not going to have all the information when you take a job. There are many, many times in our lives where we just, excuse me, most of the times in our lives where we just don't get to know all the things. And
Mhm.
you don't have to like it, but most of us make peace with it in order to not be stuck. Because if you are trying to wait until you have all the information, that you will be waiting into infinity, which is technically a state of stuckness if there ever was one.
Right, and you don't make a decision or a choice, and you're stuck anyway, so, yeah, I like this a zigzag path. I have a picture in my office of the zigzag path, and it's never really from point A to point B, but you kinda zig this way and zag this way, and it's okay to choose this way and decide, "Oh, yeah, that's probably not working out. Let's do this," and each way, you're continuing to go up and you're continuing to learn and to grow. And I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the idea there's a word for this and it's escaping me at the moment, but the idea that like when we look backwards, we always assume the decision we didn't make would have been better, might have also been worse.
Sure.
Nobody
Yeah.
ever thinks about that, right? Everybody goes like, "Oh, I should have done the other thing because this is bad." Well, what if you'd
Mhm.
done the other thing and it had been really bad? I mean, you just don't get to know that very often.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean,
focusing on where we're at and where we want to be, not how did I get here,
it's so
right?
funny because even after, the election happened, there were people who were like, "Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so bad. It's gonna be so bad. It's gonna be so bad." And then they also, the same people are saying, "Well, we don't know that it's gonna be good." So we can't believe that. I'm like, well, what are you choosing to believe? So
Mm.
that's also part of it. Are you choosing to believe that things are going to be bad, or are you choosing to believe that things could be good? Right. And so choosing your path and saying, you know what, I believe this is going to be good. Oh, it's not that great. Let's
Yes.
course correct.
Yes, absolutely. The Gottmans have a wonderful anecdote, which I'll summarize, which is something to the effect of like, you know, Jonathan sometimes thinks to himself that he shouldn't have married Betty because Betty this, and this. Sometimes Jonathan thinks to himself if he'd married Sally, then blah, 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 blah. What's funny is if he'd married Sally, he's right. This, and this wouldn't be the case, but what would be the case? This, and this. Sally sometimes thinks we're, and so on and so forth, right? This idea that like most of the time we're moving laterally and we're trading one set of complications for another. And nothing is without complications, right? We're very few things.
So true. So
I
true.
think that can be freeing to remember that, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, well, gosh, so I'm going to go ahead and share your website here. And I have to say, this is a pretty boss website.
Oh, that's nice. Well, thank
Yeah,
you.
when you think about this and you see this whole like moving water, like it is flowing forward, right?
Yes, yes,
Onward,
relentless
onward.
movement. Status quo is
Yeah.
the enemy. Status quo is always the enemy.
Oh my gosh, yes. So this is www.onwardpsych, onwardpsych services.com. And if you feel trapped, go there. And it's got beautiful pictures, and it also has a lot of, resources and challenges. And beautiful Lindsay right there, just kind of smiling along and saying, "Yeah, I can help you. I can help you. We can move forward."
We can
And
move. We can move.
exactly. Anything that you want me to, I actually really liked your blog too. Your blog is really cool. It's got a lot of really good subject matter here, and it's very well arranged. This is a really wonderful website for anybody
Thank
who wants to
you.
go on here. But yeah, do you want to call attention to anything on your website that we can lead our listeners to in this?
There's a contact page which you're welcome to contact me through if you'd like. There's also a lot of information. It's a pretty extensive website. And I would also encourage you, I'm on Instagram where I make practical tactical videos that are really fun for me to make. I really love doing them. And they're about little gems that tend to resonate with many people above and beyond situation or diagnosis. They're things that are helpful and constructive and usually pretty funny because I like funny at the end of the day. That's what makes me tick.
Right.
Funny and change. So, I love to get feedback, and I love to have people share those, and I love to hear what works for them and what doesn't work for them, because that helps me refine it for the next person, right? And at the end of the day, what we're trying to do, and I think what we're all trying to do as therapists, is help people access what's helpful to them in ways that resonate and in ways that are impactful.
Yeah, so you do actually reels on Instagram. This is, by the way, Instagram is Onward Psych Services, so you can go
Yeah,
onto Instagram and see Lindsay there. But it sounds like you do some video work.
I do, and most of them involve toys. I'm a big fan of
Ooh,
using toys that I get from the thrift store. Uh,
wow.
yes, I like models. I'm very visual and tactile, so I like models of things. So please do check it out. I would love your feedback.
Well, I got a little rubber chicken here,
I love that.
and I got a little cat that has my face from back in 2006 or
Oh my
something like
goodness,
that.
those are adorable. I love
Yeah,
that.
I got toys.
The only thing I have handy, I have my magic wand handy.
Oh, I
And
got finger puppets.
I have finger puppets. I love finger puppets.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So here's the divine feminine, and here's the masculine, and
Oh
here
my
we
god.
go. We say like, okay, here we go. This is gonna like be weird, but like, we have to work. No, I want to play. Well, we have to work, but I want to play and chase some rainbows. But who's gonna put food on the table? Well, can we negotiate?
I love it. I love it.
Okay, maybe we can have some fun. Okay, maybe we could do some work. Mm.
Your finger puppets are a lot more sophisticated than mine. Mine do not have discussions.
I love finger puppets. I've got another set at work too. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh, Lindsay. So, yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. Again, onwardpsychservices.com is the website. You can also find Lindsay on X at Onward Psych, Instagram, as we've said, Onward Psych Services, and on LinkedIn, Lindsey-Carnick-therapist. And I have actually requested to connect with you. So
Oh,
you
fantastic.
hopefully will
I will see
be
you
a
there.
part of my network.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
It's been
yeah.
such a pleasure, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this has been a great talk and I appreciate you. And thank you so much for being here on Calming the Chaos podcast.
Oh, thank you for doing the work you're doing. I think this is a tremendous asset to a lot of people, and I'm very fortunate to have you.
All right.
Thanks for listening to Calming the Chaos podcast. If you found this podcast interesting or helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can also go to www.calmingthechaospodcast.com to listen to all Calming the Chaos podcast episodes. I look forward to sharing my next podcast episode with you. In the meantime, take care.